Welcome to the Untrapped podcast, where we're motivated and inspired about success, small business, and personal development. And now, Keith Kalfas.
We are live. What's up? I'm here with Austin Douglas from Ditch the Itch. This dude built a six-figure business from nothing, removing poison ivy, and he also does mosquito treatments. We've become friends. He also has a YouTube channel. He has a training academy where he teaches people how to get into the industry. He's a certified arborist. I have a ton of respect for him, and he's been on the podcast before. He's back again here live on social media and on the Untrapped podcast on Apple and Spotify. What's up, brother? It's awesome to have you here. And let's dive right into the spring launch business. What's going on? What's going on in your business? I'm going to talk about everything.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Thanks for having me again, Keith. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, hopefully share some knowledge and serve some people out there. This year is looking pretty good. We got more projects, more contracts. It's really strange when you look at, I'm in my 5th year in business, and in year 1, when I was just doing this part-time, I had $47,000 in sales in my first year. I have $53,000 in pre-sold mosquito contracts and other tree injection contracts, plant healthcare contracts right now before the season even starts. So just to see like that, just looking back on that to me is pretty wild. It's pretty cool to see that over time you can actually build something and make it sustainable, make it grow, and just continue to develop, right? It's fun. I'm excited. The weather's starting to change. Looking outside, it's pretty beautiful. Still a little cold here, so we're kind of on a hurry up and wait schedule for our applications. But this year looks promising. Every year we've been growing. We're diving into a lot of social media ads, advertising, changing things up. Still going to run some billboards this year. Just constantly marketing, testing, seeing what's working out there. What about you? What are you doing?
I'm fired up. The spring's starting. My email and phone is already ringing, text message from all of our favorite clients. We don't actually have to do any marketing anymore because I have all of my favorite clients. We have so many reviews on Google. I just don't have to spend a penny on marketing.
That's
and so
fantastic.
We're probably hiring another new employee, and it's just very even keel. I'm not trying to grow the business or anything. I'm obsessed with my media business. So I just take care of my favorite clients in my landscaping business now. And so back to you. I want to hear everything that's going on with you, bro, because one thing I really love is your ability to be very hyper-focused and organized. When you say you're going to do something, you put together a plan of action and you actually do it. And then you also have this ability to be creative and launch new projects. And I've seen you've got the Zoom board, the Vibe board, I have over there, bro. You actually bought one and you have launched your own training academy, and you have students now, and you have your a polymath, your multi-skilled.
I don't know what that is.
So you've built skills in all different areas to make something work, but you also can communicate in a simple way that people can understand. So it's a very admirable qualities that you've created. I've showed up on a few of your job sites. You've been on the Untrapped podcast, and your ability to stay focused and calm under pressure is something I really appreciate. And you're becoming an influencer. You're doing some public speaking too, and you're making a huge name for yourself, and you're humble most of all. So what do you see what's working right now for getting jobs, retaining clients, earning trust for clients from them to sign bigger deals and repeat deals? And how is all this working?
So I think as far as landing larger contracts, you have to be able to put yourself in front of those people that are in charge of those contracts. You have to have a good name out there, good reputation. You have to meet people. You have to network. Like last year, we were awarded a $70,000 invasive species remediation project for the Genesee Conservation District. And the only reason why I was even brought up into that was because I went to a Wildflower Association meeting 4 years ago at Michigan State. And I met and talked with people who were concerned about native plants and invasive plants. A couple of those people happened to work for the conservation districts or invasive species management associations that work with governments here in Michigan. And they remembered my name. So that year, I think I did small projects for them. And then this year they contacted me and said, hey, we have this larger project. Can you take a look? Can you bid it? That was probably the biggest project that we've taken on, right? Typically my standard everyday client is right around $600. So to go from a $600 client to a $70,000 client was a massive jump. When you get projects like that, it's kind of challenging in a way. But if you break it down into small sub projects and say, this is what we need to get done every day, this is what we need to get done every week, it becomes a lot easier. So if anyone's out there wanting to get larger projects like that, I'd say don't sweat it, but also invest in your education so you can win the bid, right? In my bid, when I was contacting the, what would you call it, the project manager, my bid was higher than theirs. And we had more education and qualities that led them to pay more. And this isn't the first time this has happened to me. So if you really want to step your game up into the clientele that you're dealing with, I would say that you need to invest in your education and take steps to show that you're a true professional in the industry. Like me, I've got a couple of qualifications through the TCIA, certified arborist through the ISA, right? Shout out to Daniel Miraval for, showing what that's like. I just submitted my application to the ISA to be able to sit
International Society of Arboriculture, ISA.
Yes. I actually just sent my application to them to qualify to sit for the exam to become a board certified master arborist. Ironically, on my birthday, which was the 21st, I got the approval saying, yes, you do qualify to sit for the exam. So later this year, I'm planning on taking that and hopefully obtaining that qualification and joining that group of people that are considered master arborists. But I would just say continuously learn, right? Because knowledge, when you apply it, transitions into more opportunities, more money, just in general, bettering your life. As far as the YouTube channel and the online courses and stuff like that, that's kind of a really unique story. 3 years ago, I was down in Mexico with my wife. My wife's from there. We go down and visit her family every year. And I received a call from the Michigan Green Industry Association, which is a big association that educates landscapers, pesticide applicators, turf managers, a lot of different facets of the green industry. And they asked me if I wanted to become an instructor. I kind of thought about it. It's like, that's kind of interesting, right? You get to teach people in person, go to these classes, share knowledge, share wisdom that you've learned from the field. And so I said, yeah, I'd love to do it. But then my entrepreneurial brain went into, well, how can I offer classes like this myself to the marketplace? And so the other company that I created was actually like a little seed that was planted in my brain 3 years ago. And I started this company. I actually started the actual company in January of 2024. It's called Elevate Applicate. And the whole point of that was to educate, pesticide applicators, green industry professionals, and to advance their knowledge in this stuff. And I was kind of struggling with this business and how I wanted to go about it. Basically, I created like 2 pages, which was 2 trains of thought. And it was, do I go on my own and position myself like this, or do I partner with the association and position ourselves like this? And I was really struggling with that because I love the Michigan Green Industry Association. They've done a lot for me. They asked me to become an instructor. I learned a ton when I was attending them as a student myself. And that decision, that thought process that I was battling with kind of expedited. The executive director called me one day. I was out in the field doing some poison ivy work. And she's like, hey, I want you to become a board of director for the MGA. And I said, well, there might be a conflict of interest, right? You guys do this. I'm thinking of this. I don't know. We should sit down and have a talk. So we sat down, we had a talk, and this year we agreed on or last year we agreed on it, but this year we're going to implement it, is a partnership for the MGIA and my other company, Elevate Applicate, to start offering online CEU courses for pesticide applicators. In the past, the MGIA would only do in-person classes. And so now they're having a new avenue, which kind of opens up the reach to the rest of the pesticide applicators in Michigan. The cool aspect of that is that in order for us to come to this arrangement, I made it to where everyone wins, and we're going to take 10% of any money that is used, and any investment into these classes is going to go directly to helping Michigan communities, whether that's through charity, whether that's through, a landscaper or lawn bro that, his stuff got stolen or lost in a fire. Like, we want to help the industry. That's the main point that we're doing there. So it's kind of different than what we're doing, but that's a balancing act of running that company with this company. It's wild. It's fun. I love it. Actually, that company, is only alive because I created a practice exam for the National Pesticide Applicator Core Manual, a little $20 offer that I put out there to the world. I create a whole series on YouTube. I think as of right now, that has around like 200,000 views. So it's pretty cool to see. Only removing poison ivy. Typically, yes. I'm not trying to remove any other material that's out there. We will kill it. We'll let it be, but I'm not out there with a dump trailer pulling out invasives or anything like that. With the large project that we did for the conservation district, we chipped everything on site, and they're going to use that mulch on site for various purposes, whether it's paths or mulch around trees that they're planting. So, but that's exciting, man. Our business grew 50% year over year from last year. That's pretty awesome.
What could you say are, it could be as simple as just hustling, but are the specific levers that you pull to make your business grow? And then what percentage of it would you say is just you were in the right place at the right time and opportunities just were coming because you were putting yourself out there and doing the right things or trying hard? What are those levers and how do you identify them?
Well, I'm still learning my levers, right? I'm not $1 million company. So I still have to learn those levers to pull to get up there. The levers that I have pulled that I do know that work, I can go throw out 100 yard signs on corners, and I know it'll result in $3,000 to $4,000 worth of work. Like every time consistently that we've done that, that's what it's resulted in. But other things, right now we're in the process of dealing with social media and tracking all of those ads and how that works and the scalability of that, testing various ads to see what works. This year I'm implementing a referral program, and I'm putting a time limit on what kind of reward people can get. So for the month of April and May, our clients, we're going to give them a $50 credit towards services for every person that they refer to us that's a paying client. We can only do that because we've transitioned how we do certain services. So in mosquito control, typically, most companies are going to operate on every 3 to 4 week treatment interval. That's pretty standard. We used to do every 3 weeks. We've transitioned to an every 60-day treatment. So now it's like 3 treatments in one. And that all comes because various formulations are coming to the market that last longer, so you can reduce the amount of applications within the environment. It's very new. When I talk to other mosquito control companies, they tell me I'm nuts, but I have plenty of reviews of people saying, no, this actually works. Last year was the first year we implemented it. So to be able to give people $50 for referring to us, I'm super excited, super stoked. And I'm thinking about even like going deeper with my referral program where it's like top refers are going to win like this grill or this handbag. Eventually once you get to a large enough company, it's like, hey, we're going to give away a vacation to Cancun or whatever. You just create these rewards where people are like, I want to win that. And they just put your name out everywhere. It's exciting.
Yeah. Marketing is fun.
Marketing's fun, man. It's all a giant test.
Agave bond. Do you deal with the Japanese knotweed and tree of heaven? Of heaven?
Yes, we do. Japanese knotweed is a pain to deal with. It is so challenging to control. It takes many years and multiple applications. The reason for that is because Japanese knotweed has this crazy root system. It has these little nodules, these little rhizomes in the ground. They're like the size of a small watermelon almost. And every time you treat it with herbicide, you're just working your way through the rhizomes. So yes, we do, but it takes a lot. Tree of Heaven's a little bit easier to manage, When they're smaller, you could do a cut stump application where you sever the tree, poison the stump. Or if they're larger trees and you don't feel like removing the tree, you just rather kill it, you can do a girdle cut with a chainsaw and apply an herbicide in that ring where you cut it, and it's dead. Minimal risk and exposure to the applicator and very direct as far as using chemicals go. We had to treat a lot of tree of heaven in that Genesee Conservation District job. There's a lot of it. So we did a mixture of both. We're not a traditional tree company. We don't have chippers. Well, we do have a chipper, but we don't have lifts. We don't have any sort of rigging gear or climbing gear necessarily to go up and remove these massive trees. So we would kill them. And then the conservation district has their own kind of like a tree division. They have this awesome bucket truck, this great arborist that runs it, John. And so their job was then to go in and deal with the larger stuff. So we focused on what we're good at, and then we leave the focus to somebody else on what they're good at.
It's got some clarity going there. I like that. Corey Whitmore. I'm covered in poison.
Dude. That's not good.
He says, I'm covered in poison ivy today, arms, legs, and chest.
Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry to hear that. So how can we prevent you from getting that in the future? Number one, you definitely want to know what it looks like. Okay. Poison ivy is a 3-leaf plant. Every single set of 3 leaves looks different. Their notch pattern looks different. The vines have very coarse hairs on it that look like horsehair that's climbing trees. I would highly recommend that you wear long sleeves, pants, boots, gloves when you're out in the field. I know in the hot temperatures that's not desirable, but that will protect a lot of you. The other thing is that if you can afford the time, always wash up after you've done some sort of project where you could have potentially been exposed. You want to use cold water, Dawn dish soap, and a rag. And you want to lather up with Dawn dish soap and strip that lather off with the rag. The abrasion working with the Dawn dish soap will strip the oils off. If you just use Dawn dish soap and just wash your hands like normal, you're not going to have enough abrasion to pull the oil off your skin. You're just going to spread it around. So you definitely want to have that in your truck. And then now that you have the rash, it's probably horrible. My best recommendation to you that I've found, I can't say it'll work for everyone, but it works for a lot of people, is extremely hot water. When you have a rash, you use really hot water and you almost scald your skin. And the reason why you do that is because your body itches because those blisters are stretching your skin. And so if you use extremely hot water on those areas, what that does is it makes your skin more malleable so it can push out the oils and the toxins that it doesn't want, and you alleviate the itch. Typically, I generally get poison ivy right here on my wrist from doing some sort of removal or something. My sleeve separates from my glove, and I can put extremely hot water on that area, and I'll have 8 to 12 hours of just alleviation from any sort of symptom of poison ivy. That's horrible, man. I'm sorry to hear that.
I've had the poison ivy. It sucks. Okay. Josh Wilkinson. Does your yard signs just say that you remove poison ivy? And do you actually pull the poison ivy off of structures the customer wants it off of? And do you use a special kind of pesticide? I like these comments coming in. We're live.
Yeah, man. So we do remove poison ivy. We do that, and that's kind of like a recommendation. So we go out, we visit a site, we inspect it with the client, we see what's going on. In certain situations, if that poison ivy is in a high risk area or a high trafficked area, it's highly recommended to remove it, because once you kill it with an herbicide, essentially what happens is the plant's dead, but the oil is still active in the stems and the root systems. So what we do, we make the recommendation. It's up to the client at that point. If they want to move forward with removing it, then we charge an additional fee to go and remove it. We don't, like I said, we don't really remove other plants or anything like that. I'm not typically a landscaper that's pulling out shrubs or anything like that. But in poison ivy, we do remove it off structures. I have a lot of pictures where I've removed entire sides of houses and commercial buildings that were just covered in poison ivy vines. It happens more frequently than you would imagine. And when you get there, you're just like, oh my gosh, like, how did this happen? There's a couple times where I've done work for a division of the city of Ypsilanti here in Michigan, and there was poison ivy growing under the siding, out, up, over, around onto the roof of houses. So we had to remove the siding, remove the poison ivy. I mean, it was an absolute mess. As far as the herbicide goes that we use a selective systemic herbicide. It's called Garlon 3A. It's triclopyr in an amine formulation, so it's a water salt based. It's not an oil base, and that's very, very effective at killing poison ivy. Your glyphosates are not going to be the right product for it. Those are more of a contact herbicide. 2,4-D could work. We just happen to use triclopyr. It works quite well. So,
bro, this is exactly what I do.
Yeah, I love doing it. I've been removing and managing poison ivy for the last 10, 12 years of my life. It's great.
He said in herbicide, I suppose, not pesticide. Wrong terminology.
I understood. I understood the terminology there.
Corey Whitmore says, was doing a spring cleanup, still dormant. Was hard to see. I'll be paying more attention going forward.
Absolutely. I just had a client contact us today asking us to come out on April 2nd to inspect for poison ivy. And my response was, that's not going to happen. We won't be out there until mid-May. And just like you had mentioned, it's dormant right now. So identification is super difficult. It's difficult to identify when everything's green and you can identify a leaf pattern. But when you're just looking at sticks on the ground, it's way harder. So we hold off on doing any sort of poison ivy work until mid to late May, where we are in Michigan. If you go further south, that's kind of expedited. You have warmer weather, etc. But yeah, just cover yourself up, man. Wear long sleeves, pants, boots, gloves. Absolutely.
Corey Whitmore says, good advice. Oh, a new comment coming in by Kevin Clunan. He says, I'm so allergic to poison ivy. Every time we're at a new property, I have to take a walk with my employees and show them where it is and what it is. Oil gets on tools and doesn't go away.
Yeah, that's true. That oil will stick there for quite some time. A good way to clean tools, if you're worried about plastics or anything like that, rubbing alcohol in a rag works well. Dawn dish soap, again. Metal tools, brake cleaner works fantastic to strip the oils off of it. That's what we do, right? So if you guys are out there mowing, you got your trimmers, they're constantly in this stuff. That's what I would recommend. Loppers, pruners, shovels, anything of that nature. We have clients that they've done work and they continuously get poison ivy reactions because they were pulling weeds and then they touch the handle of the tool. And then they keep touching the handle of the tool and, they sweat and they rub their face and they're like, where is this coming from? Well, it's coming from, transferring it to your tools and then back to you. And this cycle just keeps happening.
I had poison ivy because I used to wear shorts to work all over my legs. And then I came home and I was sleeping in bed next to my wife. And then she's like, a couple days later, her legs are itching like crazy and her ankles. She's like, what the hell is going on?
I've heard some crazy funny stories from guys, mainly golfers. I don't know if any of you are golfing out there, but a lot of golfers will tell me that they shoot balls out into the rough, into the woods. They go to get their ball. They reach down, grab it, throw it back into the fairway. And while they're there, they decide to, alleviate themselves. When they went to go grab the ball, their hand came into contact with it. And then, that's all she wrote. 2 to 3 days after that, they really questioned cheating while golfing. It happens very frequently. I hear probably 1 or 2 of those stories every single year. It's hilarious. It's horrible, right? I don't wish that feeling on anyone, but it's like, you should really use your brain out there and not do this.
Oh man, that was a great laugh. Awesome. Gav Bond. I don't think I'm allergic to poison ivy. I wear short sleeves, but I do wash and take care to wear and change gloves, eyewear, and soap. Corey Whitmer says, have to look for those fuzzy hairs that grow on it this time of year. Corey Whitmer says, I have to start cleaning my tools after coming in contact with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I would just make a habit. I would just make a habit of cleaning your tools, at every job site, right? As an arborist, we think about sanitation and taking care of tools for disease purposes, but for, poison ivy and noxious plant purposes, you definitely want to clean them as much as you can, right? Because anytime you touch them, you could be potentially exposing yourself. As far as what Agav said, so 85% of people are allergic to poison ivy. what happens is that people don't necessarily, they're not, how do I word this? Everyone has a different level of susceptibility. So you could have an 85-year-old man who gets his first reaction to poison ivy, and you could have a 19-year-old kid who gets hospitalized from it. And then you have the whole spectrum of in between. And it's just a matter of the more you come into contact with it, the more likely you are to get a rash. Basically, our bodies have to recognize urushiol oil, which is what causes the rash, as an allergen. And once it does, every time after that, you're going to have a reaction, you're going to have a rash, and it's going to get worse every single time.
If you are looking for the greatest software ever to run your business on, go to getjobber.com/Keith. You can create proposals, invoices, collect payments, and track your entire business directly on the Jobber smartphone app. If you want to get a totally free trial of Jobber right now, open your browser, type in getjobber.com/Keith, and after the trial, if you decide to sign up with Keith's link, you'll automatically get 20% off your first 6 months. So what are you waiting for? Go to getjobber.com/Keith.
Dude, it was back in the day, we did this, just elevating a bunch of trees on this huge property. And so I got, I don't know, this small bunk chipper or whatever. I think I put it on the tailgate of the truck no, we were just shooting it off into the woods. This, chipper we had, it was this Bearcat chipper. Anyways, so I'm trimming everything, and the two guys are cleaning and raking and throwing all the branches and chipping it. And I didn't know what all those vines were growing up the trees. We're just ripping them off by hand. And
I could already tell the story from here. Oh,
all
boy.
Right, so we all had poison ivy, and this kid that was working for me, I think he was like 18. Dude, dude, he was covered in poison ivy, all from here down, from his knees down, like blisters of poison ivy, bro. And I was like, and I had it too, but just not as bad. And then I was like, started researching, and I was like, wait a second. We were chipping and shredding poison ivy for 2 days straight, bro.
Oh my gosh.
And this kid went to the clinic, and I paid for the bill. And I felt so horrible. I was apologizing, and he was fine. But that's when I started learning about poison ivy, bro. And now this other guy who works for me, it's almost too extreme, bro. Like, if there's even poison ivy at all, he won't even go near it at all. He's like, I'm not touching it. I don't care. I'm like, dude, just put on some gloves. Like, quit being a wuss, bro. Just grab the shit and let's go. So if he has to, he will, but he just avoids it at all costs because he's so dang allergic to it. But it's like, dude,
well, if you had a bad experience, right, you're gonna be gun shy to it, right?
Yeah.
If you know what it can do to you and you've had a horrible experience, you want to avoid that, like the plague. So I mean, I understand it from his perspective. Can you remove it safely? Absolutely. I'm allergic to poison ivy, and I do it all summer long. So it is possible. It is doable.
You know what sucks, bro, is when you get it on your face too, like, and you're itching the hell out of your face and your wrists, and it's like,
so how do you get it on your face? What happens?
I must have touched poison ivy or tool and wiped the sweat off my forehead or something. But
That
I mean,
is the most common thing. When people get it on their face, it's because they wipe away sweat, or it's because they're trying to swat a mosquito or a fly that's bothering them. So you're doing yard work, right? You got your gloves on, you're being safe, you got your long sleeves, and then all of a sudden you're hot, or get out of here. And then 2 to 3 days later, here it appears. I see it all the time. So you have to train yourself to wipe the sweat away differently. I have to do one of these numbers where it's not exposed up here. And so that's another tip that I can give you out there to avoid poison ivy, is train yourself to not wipe away your sweat with your hand. It's a big one.
They should make poison ivy eye drops.
Eye drops.
Yeah, I know. Like, you literally take the juice from the poison ivy, and that'll be your eye drops.
Why?
It's just a stupid joke. It's because it's insane.
That'd be horrible. Your eyes would just be like.
All right, Robert Richard Sr. Even though I'm not allergic to it, but what's a good way to clean your clothing to make sure it's out of your clothes?
Fantastic question. So I wash my clothes just like I would any other piece of clothing. The only difference with me is that when I walk in the door into my home, they go into a separate hamper. It's not because of the poison ivy oil. It's because of the pesticides that we're using. I don't want my clothes to mix in with my kids' clothes, my wife's clothes. So we wash my clothes separate for that reason. And then we do a rinse cycle within our washer to rinse out any other potential residue that could be there. But as far as the oil goes, once you're using a laundry detergent, that's going to eliminate the poison ivy oil. There's an exception to that rule, and it's poison sumac. Poison sumac is a toxic tree that only grows in wetland, bog, swamps. And the oil is chemically different, and it will bind to fibers, and you can't wash it out. It'll just be bound to it. And so if you ever get that on pants or your shirts or anything like that, it will stay there. You can't wash it out. You have to toss them and get them out of there. But we hardly deal with poison sumac, but sometimes we do. That is staghorn sumac. That red cone berry, that's different. A lot of people associate that with poison sumac, but it's not. It's poison sumac is really unique. All sumacs have like a growth structure, which is they have a main trunk that branches out in multiple spots, and then they branch. It's almost like I think that we refer to them as like Michigan palm trees, just how they grow, right? They don't have any foliage down low. It's all up high. Poison sumac's unique because when you see it in a wetland, its leaves aim up and they have this cupping motion, and it's designed to channel water down towards their root system. But it's a super unique plant. It's got a very unique shade of green. And once you train your eye to look for that shade of green, you can't miss it when you're in a wetland. It's a horrible tree. The difference between poison ivy and poison sumac, when you cut a poison ivy vine, it takes a few minutes for the oil to start oozing out of the vine. When you cut a poison sumac tree, it comes out like motor oil. I mean, it spreads like crazy. It's just full of it. So if you're messing in a wetland, watch out for that tree. Do you charge by the amount of poison ivy or how exactly? So we have a base price that covers a certain square footage of poison ivy to be treated. That square footage relates to a certain amount of gallons that we apply and the time it takes to do that. Once we start applying more product and it takes more time, at that point, we charge more money. But majority of our clients fit our base treatment price, and we base that off of 3,000 to 4,000 square feet of treated poison ivy. That's roughly 3 to 4 gallons of product applied. So most residential lots, we're applying 2 gallons or less. Once you start getting into 3 to 4 gallons, now you're starting to get into a lot of poison ivy. Because you got to think, an acre is like 43,000 square feet and some change. If you're applying to 4,000 square feet or 4 gallons of water, that's roughly 10% of the property that's covered in poison ivy. Like you're talking about a very substantial amount. So it's all, we base it on time and material. We have a base price that we want to get per hour, which is right in the $200 to $225 a man hour rate for that. And obviously we're always trying to up that. So if we can, we do. If not, then hey, it's okay. But generally for what we're charging, what we're doing, we fit that bill.
Man, this guy is great at answering questions. This is nice. I like this. Corey Whitmore says, I had long sleeves and gloves on and still got it. I'll take better caution and care on the next job. He also
Corey,
said,
what kind of shirt was it? Was it a cotton shirt or a polyester thin shirt? Also, were your clothes wet or were they dry? Those will play huge factors into it. A polyester shirt, the oil can penetrate through because the fibers, they're more open than a cotton shirt. And if your clothes are wet, the oil will ride on the water. And so it'll ride right through the clothing much faster. So those are two things to take into account, right? We're out there working really hard. We're sweating. You get sweat on your shirt. It's wet. If you touch poison ivy, that oil is going to ride that water straight through to your skin.
He says that's not poisonous. That grows like a tree.
He's talking about the
grows more like a bush.
Picture. Yeah, that red coned.
Says cotton dry.
Well, that's a hard one. You had to touch your skin then with oil in some way, shape, or form. That's the only way you'd get it. The only way.
Hey man, real quick, what is your YouTube channel? Where can everybody find you? Just at this month?
So Elevate Applicate is the YouTube channel. It's
Looking.
You'll see an orange tree with a badass root flare. And I mean, that's kind of my logo for that. But that channel is solely dedicated to help people become a better pesticide applicator. I built a national core series, which the National Core Pesticide Manual is kind of like the basis for all states. There it is.
Elevate, applicate.
Yep.
Nice.
So that is the basis for, or the National Core is the basis for all pesticide exams and programs throughout the United States. And it was very challenging for people to pass it. The last time I took the exam, the proctor told me that there was a 75% fail rate on that exam, which I thought was crazy. 75%, a lot. The state changed how they did the exam. Before, they would let you retake it numerous times, and it was no additional charge. Then with COVID, they transferred it to a different company who manages taking the exams, and now you have to pay every single time. So I tried to make it easier, because when I took the exam, I don't know, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, there was no resources like that online. I had to read the books, right? I had to read 500 pages of books, retain the information, go take the exam, go pass the exam. And nowadays, people don't learn that way as much. There's still people that will read books and will retain information, but most people learn through visual, watching videos, and through audio, hearing someone's voice talk about it. They can retain and recall information from a podcast like this or a YouTube video. So I went through the book. I went through every single chapter, pulled out all the important information to pass the exam. And then that's what I created. By my best estimate, I've probably helped 2,000 or 3,000 pesticide applicators enter the industry in the last year. Based on popular demand, a lot of people were asking if I had additional study materials. They were asking, do you have a practice exam or anything else that can help me pass this? And at the time I didn't. I was thinking to myself, I could probably create a practice exam. That I could create an exam. Like, if the government can create an exam, I'm pretty sure that I can create an exam. So I went through the book. I stayed up all night one night, pissed my wife off because she said, why didn't you go to sleep? Like, what are you doing? And I created this 200 question practice exam, put it out there into the ether. And I don't want to say it's been selling like hotcakes, but it's been selling pretty well. And it is helping people. And it's helping people all across the country, which is even cooler.
Robert Richard Senior. Earlier you said there's a way we can take your course. Can we get the information for that?
Yeah, it depends on what kind of course you're looking for. So I have a course that's dedicated for poison ivy. You can find that, I believe it's at thepoisonivyacademy.com. I have a mosquito course that I just released January. I did a couple of live ones, and it was like a live training session, but then I've released the recordings. You can find that at elevate-applicate/mosquito mastery. And that's basically teaching you the new treatment application method that we're using. And the new method that we're using is pretty sweet. I did a lot of math on it. This is a way that we can pay technicians $60,000 to $70,000 a year. And one technician can generate roughly $200,000 to $300,000 in revenue.
Did I spell this right? Elevate-applicate.
No, sir. Here. Can I type in here? Can I join the chat?
I think you can. You should be able to.
Let's connect. How do I connect? All right. See, this is all fancy and stuff.
This is StreamYard. Elevate-applicate-mosquito mastery.
Elevate-applicate.
Or the poisonivyacademy.com. Austin Douglas. Ditch the itch.
This should be. Oh, it said it failed to post. I don't know why. Anyway.
What?
That's what it said on my end. But
spell it out for me, and I'll type it in the chat.
Well, it's elevate-applicate.com/mosquito mastery. That's the new mosquito class that I launched in January.
How do you spell mosquito? MOSQUITO?
I believe so. Yeah.
elevate-applicate.com/mosquito mastery.
Yes. But we've gotten some pretty good feedback. There's a lot of people
Is that it?
Yes, that looks correct. But that's a new way to offer mosquito control services. And I'll tell you why that's an important thing. Because traditional companies, they would go service clients every 3 to 4 weeks and apply pesticides on that property. The pesticides that they applied on that property were basically registered and founded back in the 1980s. Okay, so from the 1980s to now, you're talking 40 years of development in pesticide products, mode of actions, safety. A lot of things have happened in that time. And so there's newer formulations out there that last longer, provide the same results. They're safer for pesticide applicators and people. I mean, I don't understand why you would want to use these older products that are harsh, more toxic than what's being produced now. On top of that, it's important for business owners because if you can go to somebody's property every 2 months instead of every 3 to 4 weeks, well, that opens up a massive amount of capacity on the schedule. If you think of an every 3-week cycle, right? In 60 days, you're going to that property almost 3 times. You're right on the verge of every 3 times, right? It's 3 treatments in 1. So if you only have to go there once, now you have this whole giant schedule that you can open up to take on more clients. You can get there faster. You don't need your schedule to be completely full because you have the ability to get there quick. So when people call, it's like, yeah, we can be there tomorrow. We have opening in the schedule because you have the capacity. Until you fill that capacity, then obviously you need somebody else to start doing that for you. But I did the math, and doing it in a traditional sense, a mosquito technician could generate roughly $125,000 a year in revenue with a super tight, dense route based on what I was charging. And this new method, this new application process, a mosquito technician conservatively can generate $199,000 in revenue. If you were to max out that technician's schedule, he could be generating $299,000. He'd probably hate his life and he wouldn't have any breaks or anything like that. But even on a light day, if you could fill the schedule to a nice light capacity in a 60-day cycle, very quickly with like 300 clients, you can get your technician to generate 200 grand. Substantial. And you're using safer products. You're reducing pesticide applications in the environment, which in turn means that you're not damaging pollinators or beneficial insects anymore, or not anymore, I should say, but you're reducing the risk of damaging them. Less applications, more direct applications, etc. So it's fun. You'd mentioned something about me doing public speaking. So the MGIA, who I'm working with to start offering continuing education credits with Elevate Applicate, they still have me be a speaker. I just spoke at their trade show and convention that they host every single March.
The Michigan Green Industry Association, MGIA, just had you speak.
Yes. Yeah. They host a trade show and convention or conference every single March. Roughly 6,000 people attend it. There's a lot of vendors, a lot of equipment to go see, a lot of networking opportunities, and a lot of educational opportunities. So I had the ability to teach pesticide formulations this year, and then also about pesticide labels. And I think my classes, I had, 200 people in my first class and right around 150 in the second. So it was nice to be able to speak in front of them and kind of, teach them from my perspective on the industry, what they should be looking at, what they should think about, kind of the modern day pesticide applicator is how I always look at it.
That's awesome, bro.
It's fun. It's a ride.
I love it. So the spring's launching. You're about to be crazy busy.
Yeah.
Will you be filming any new videos on YouTube?
I will. Yeah, I'm going to keep, we have a channel for Ditch the Itch. I'm going to keep that more tailored towards what we do on the back end of the company, kind of like behind the scenes. This is what we're seeing. This is what we're doing, using it as a more of a marketing thing in the industry. But with Elevate Applicate, that's going to be strictly educational through plant health care, mosquitoes, pesticide applications in general, comparing products, all of that. That's what it's going to be. And it's kind of, I have to separate it because it's hard to intermingle, ditch the itch with poison ivy, but talking and speaking, it's a different audience, right? I'm speaking to homeowners that have poison ivy issues or mosquito issues, and I'm speaking to professionals that want to know more and learn more and become better. So I definitely will. On this sunny day, I was planning on going and making a boxwood leaf miner video, which rings a bell because I think when we did some spring work together, Keith, I showed you what that was and it blew your mind that I could just look at a shrub and go, that has that insect. And then I visually showed it to you by opening up the leaf and you're like, how do you know this? So boxwood leaf miner is a huge issue.
From my perspective, this is great, bro. You're so smart. This is great. I barely had to say anything.
Well, you just let me steal your show. So
that's exactly what you're supposed to do, man. Just dropping knowledge bombs and I'm just chilling.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm here to serve,
Robert Richard Sr., outside of your YouTube channel, is there a emailers list we can sign up for to see or know about when you will be putting out new courses?
I don't think I have an email list or anything out there to obtain emails to do that. I'll put that together. Yeah, I'll have to do something like that.
I will hop on Kajabi and just create a free resource that you give away.
Yeah, I can
exchange your emails, and I bet you'll get 200 to 300 emails in the first week.
Maybe. Yeah, probably. You're probably right. So I'll think of something and see what I can put out there, and then I'll let you know through my Instagram.
Where are you at on Instagram?
Facebook. Instagram, I'm more active on Ditch the Itch MI. You'll see me. You'll see a bunch of poison ivy content. That's where I hang out. That's the Instagram that I created. I do have an Instagram at Elevate Applicate, but it hasn't taken my focus, right? I've been focused on making videos, making a lot of behind the scenes content. So if you were to go to Elevate Applicate on YouTube right now, you'll notice I haven't put out a video in a long time. Actually, the last video I put in was in Mexico 2 or 3 months ago. What I've been doing on the back end is creating hours and hours of class content for continuing education credits. So I developed, I want to say 8 hours of continuing education credits, ranging from mosquito control credits to turf grass, ornamentals, commercial core credits. And now I've been going through and I'm making our category 3B to put on YouTube, which is about ornamentals. So this year on YouTube, I'll be adding ornamental education and right-of-way applications. As far as I'm trying to hone all of the categories. So if you want to learn, it's there. So I'm on chapter 7 now. Once I get through the rest of the book, I think there's 9 chapters. I'll start teaching that and throwing those up there. And I've actually thought about teaching them live like this, so that people can come in, ask questions, and then the recording's there for people to watch at a later date. The ones I did previously, I pre-recorded and then just uploaded. But now I'm kind of changing how I like this feedback and answering questions like this. Because if you're just watching these videos, I don't know what you're asking yourself, right? Or what questions you might have. Getting muddy. It's that time of year.
New Image Landscaping and Tree Services. Hey, Keith, how are you, man? Just working and listening, getting muddy. LOL. What's up, bro? You're out there working. What's up, Troy Danner? He says,
Thanks for coming, man. Thanks for dropping in.
To see you here.
I appreciate that.
So, yeah. Oh, here's another question. He says, I do appreciate ways to keep mosquitoes away when I'm hunting.
Yeah. So, hunting is challenging because you can't have scents on you, right? There's certain scents that deer will smell and want to avoid. The best way to keep mosquitoes off you in that aspect, I think, is probably a thermal cell. You can find those. They just attach on your belt and they release a chemical that keeps them away. But I've never used one in hunting. There's more essential oils that you can use that it'll confuse deer, but it won't smell like a human. And actually, we're in the process. You'll like this, Keith, I think. We're in the process of working with a mosquito repellent manufacturer to get our product private labeled with Ditch the Itch on it. So when I saw an ad pop up on my Facebook about this private label your own insect repellent, and I thought to myself, that's interesting. How could I position that for my company? Because one part of me said, if I hand you a bottle of mosquito repellent and I'm there to treat for mosquitoes, you might think our shit doesn't work, right? Why are you handing me a bottle of mosquito repellent when you're here to treat for mosquitoes? The other aspect I thought about, and the other way to position it was, well, we can protect you at your property, but we can't protect you everywhere you go. So this is for those situations when you leave home. And it becomes a caring act, like put this in your camper, put this in your RV, put this in your car. When you go away from home and we can't protect you in your sanctuary of itch freeness, well, we got you. And then it's got our company name on it. So people start spraying, hey, can I use that? Who's this? Oh, that's our mosquito company. They gave that to us for when we travel, right? It's a complete like mind shift on a mosquito company that actually cares. Because I guarantee you no other mosquito company out there is doing that.
I created a group called the Untrapped Alliance where we go live every other Wednesday night in a controlled environment. I'm sick of scrolling on social media. I'm sure you are too. Let's get focused on our businesses. We already started the group, so if you join at keithkalfas.com/alliance, you can get access to the replays. And the bonus is we're gonna have special guest experts who run multiple 6- and 7-figure businesses. They're gonna come on and teach us how to do sales, marketing, persuasion, close higher ticket jobs. These are people who got their shit together. And I'm really excited to have them on. Go to keithkalfas.com/alliance. I'll see you on the Wednesday night call. Let's go.
There's like, when you speak, there's an aura around you of if it's like an enthusiasm and an inspiration. So when you talk, I can't explain it. It's like you're consciously creating your ideal future and inviting others along, and also showing them the yellow brick road of what you're learning. It's very inspiring, brother.
Good. I'm glad. I hope to have that.
What's up, Gordon Gilly? You've been watching me for 2 to 3 years now, and you got your new 2024 bad boy this past fall and want to start a small personal owned solo ran lawn care, mowing, trimming, blowing. Boom.
That's awesome, man. Keep going. Keep reinvesting. I started my company 5 years ago, did $47,000 in revenue. And last year we did $250,000. This year we're aiming for 300, 350. So just keep reinvesting, keep building, keep taking care of your clients. You'll get there. Whatever you desire, you will get.
Yeah, Dow. New Image Landscape Tree Service says it sounds like I'm in a herbicide insecticide class. LOL.
Wow, I'm an educator on it, so that's what I know, right?
Ooh, Corey Whitmore says we are also getting covered in ticks doing solo spring cleanup. So what do you recommend for keeping them off?
Ticks. Okay. So I don't have a license for ticks. And so the information that I can relay to you on that is from a perspective of me as a professional outside of me being a licensed pesticide applicator. To protect yourself, they sell products out there that you can apply to clothing that is a permethrin. Permethrin is an organic extract from a chrysanthemum flower, and it kills insects. It's a natural insecticide. And a brand out there is called Sawyer, Saywer. It's a yellow bottle with black text. That is to be applied on your clothing, not when you're wearing it. So you lay out your clothes, you spray down your clothes, you let it absorb. Once it dries, it's good to go, and it'll protect you from ticks and mosquitoes for roughly 7 washes, right? 6-7 weeks. DEET is another thing to protect you in that situation. Obviously, they don't like that. It repels them. Same thing with mosquitoes. Wearing tape around all of your gloves and sleeves and your socks and your pants, that's also something to do, so that way they can't get in. Ticks are horrible. I hate them. I deal with them every single year, mainly when we're doing poison ivy work, because we're trekking through the woods, we're brushing up against stuff. I hate ticks. I hate them. And they're only going to get worse in this world. So that is something that if you wanted to get into an tick populations, is going to be a big booming industry over the next 10 to 20 years. But yeah, so it's strange why I kind of have a hate relationship with ticks. The Michigan Department of Agriculture, when they decided licensing, they put ticks in the same category as cockroaches, mice, fabric affecting pests. They put it in this weird, strange category that it doesn't belong in. Truthfully, mosquitoes and ticks belong together because it's a very similar application in the same areas. Ticks don't belong next to mice, nor do they belong next to cockroaches. It's just an illogical placement for this pest. But if you want to legally be able to apply and say that you can apply insecticides to manage ticks, you have to have this license. So I'm going through this process right now, learning about cockroaches, mice, bees, ants, spiders, things that I have no desire to learn, just so I can get the license to be able to market and manage ticks. And I've told various government agents, like, hey, this doesn't make sense. This needs to change. They just blow it off. To me, I find it to be a money grab.
Y'all are amazing. Keep the educational, formative vids coming, and even live feeds and podcasts. Gordon Gilly, yes, sir. Thank you, and you're welcome. Troy Danner says, I like this guy.
Thanks, Troy. Appreciate it, man. But yeah, it's exciting. We just, I think last time I was on your podcast, Keith, I told you I landed a 5-figure mosquito client, a residential client. You remember me talking about that? This year, that client renewed. So we're going to be doing that again. I actually just got the first payment for the first application last week. Just went and purchased all the products for it. And now we're waiting on the weather to change so we can go spray 3.5 miles of trail systems. So it's exciting. It's a lot of work.
You put like on an entire biohazard suit when you do that?
No, the label doesn't call for that. We do wear respirators. We wear gloves, long sleeves, pants, boots, all of that. Anything what the label calls for is what we wear. And with respirators, generally speaking, I make it so that myself and my technician, we wear something that's even better than what the label calls for, because we don't want to breathe it in. We don't want our skin. We don't want to breathe it in. So that's what we do. And then we keep extra clothes in case any sort of accident happens to swap them out real quick. We keep spill kits. We keep eye wash stations. We keep all this stuff on site.
We've had these conversations before. I've called you. I'm just so paranoid about getting any chemicals on my skin and going into my bloodstream and to my. I'm just not educated enough. So we'll just skip what I just said.
Well, no, let's dive into that. Let's dive into that. Okay.
Come on.
So no. Come on, man. So
I like this guy.
So chemicals are based off of a safety data sheet. They do a bunch of tests on this chemical to see how it affects people, and they base that off of lab tests with mice or rabbits. And now that they've tested so many chemicals within so many families, they can actually create an algorithm that will predict how toxic it is. So now we're getting away from all these lab tests, which is really cool. But when you look at those numbers, okay, generally they're an LD50 or an LC50. An LD50 is a lethal dose that kills 50% of a population. The rule of thumb is the lower that number, the more toxic it is. The higher that number, the less toxic it is. Why? Because it takes more of this product to kill 50% of a population versus this one where it takes less. And so in a good example of why we're switching our mosquito program the way it is, there's a traditional product that's used in almost every single mosquito control company out there that is 623 milligrams per kilogram as a LD50. It's not a super high number, but it's not a super low number. The product that we're switching to that lasts longer and works better has an LD50 of 3,200 and some change milligrams per kilogram. So it's almost a 4 to 5x difference in safety. It takes 4 to 5 times more of that product to cause 50% of a population of mice to die. And these are all concentrate numbers. They're not based on the dilution rates. So if we're talking numbers of safety, well, the product we're switching to is substantially more safe than what's been previously used. So it's, I don't know. I understand your issue and risk.
Because it's liquid death.
It's a pesticide. It's a side. It is designed to cut and to kill.
Yeah.
right?
So
The root
liquid
word.
death.
Yes and no, but it takes a substantial amount to cause it.
So how does it kill mosquitoes and poison ivy?
Great question. So different products, okay, different systems. Insects, most insecticides are designed to affect the nervous systems of those insects. A mosquito was around back in the days of the dinosaurs. Okay, it's hardly evolved in millions of years. It was almost one of the most perfectly created things on the planet that God created. If it hasn't evolved in that long, it's damn near perfect. A mosquito's wings will flap. I think it's at like 500 or 1,000 flaps a minute or a second. It's something absurd. All it takes is the tiniest interruption in that nervous system to affect how it flies to kill the mosquito. So what an insecticide does is it affects that nervous system response on how it flies, and it's dead, at least for mosquitoes. Other insects, it could affect various other systems. With plants and herbicides, how that works, most herbicides are actually plant growth regulators. When you apply an herbicide to a plant, it triggers a hormonal response within that plant to grow extremely fast, so fast that it can't keep up with food production and it starves itself and dies. So they affect different systems and they work very differently. In one, you just need the most microscopic change in a nervous system, whereas the other one, you're transforming hormones and how it responds. Keith's thinking right now. He's like, okay. All right. Uh-oh. I saw Troy said OSHA stuff. What about OSHA stuff? Gonna worry about that? OSHA in town? No, we gotta be safe, right?
All right, I'm pulling through these comments here. Boom. Comments. Oh, we got the comments coming on. 1 second. Josh Burns jumped on first comment. I may have missed this part, but will you please go through the on-site steps the crew goes through to remove ivy and trees? Thank you very much.
Okay, so in most situations, I actually don't recommend to remove poison ivy off of trees. It's a certain situation. There's certain situations in which I would. Why I don't recommend it is because depending on the type of tree and the bark, what could happen is if it's a very thick vine, a mature vine, you could strip bark off of that tree when you go to pull the vine, which if you do that, now you're opening up the tree to insects and diseases. So from the arborist perspective, I don't want to do that. Now, let's say if you're a tree company and you're not going to do the work until the poison ivy's gone. Well, in that situation, you have to remove it, right? So then you have to be very careful in how you remove it. It really depends. Every vine is different. Every way that you can handle it's different. If it's in a cottonwood tree, you have deeper ridges in the bark where it can latch onto, and it's a real pain in the ass to remove. You have to use some sort of prying tool and pry it out. If you have a smoother bark tree, they tend to rip off fairly easy, like a beech, right? A beech tree, they can just pull right off and you don't have to worry about it. But deep ridge trees, it's a real pain. Certain situations like that, if a tree company contacted me to come out to remove a mature poison ivy vine, I would probably remove all of the branches and leave the main vine and basically say, once you get to the main vine, like pay attention to where you're cutting. And once you know you're through, before you get to the poison ivy vine, like toss the round over and the vine will break and then it'll be taken to the dump or the landfill and mulched up and turned into mulch. So it's challenging, right? I can't give you like the golden answer for every single situation with poison ivy because every situation's so different.
That's good.
Yeah, it
Steve,
really is.
This guy is highly educated and he's been down many rabbit holes and learned a lot of stuff about all this. And how many classes would you say you've attended?
I think in continuing education credits, just for my ISA certification, I think I'm right around 250 continuing education hours in the last 3 years. For pesticide applicator, I think I had 40 or 50 hours just for that. And then on top of that, it's the random webinars. It's all the YouTube videos that I look into and research. It's all the books that I read on my own, the colleagues I talk to. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff that comes with it.
Did you grow up rich?
Hell no. No, I grew up, I would say middle class at the time. Now it's probably not middle class. It would probably be considered relatively poor. My father was a mechanic, and we had junk cars in the backyard that used to be my playground. I used to crawl in the trunks and through the seats and break out windshields and, do all that stuff. So I had a relatively good childhood, child life, young life. But, tragedies along the way, different things happen along the way. There's a lot of things that have happened in my life.
Here's a definition of a guy who's, what was it? You take lemons and you make lemonade. You don't, this is a guy who doesn't sit around doom scrolling on social media being depressed. Here's a guy who takes action.
What do you gain by scrolling on social media being depressed?
Oh my God, the UFOs, they're everywhere. Next person. Freaking look at Elon Musk. He's balancing a fork and a knife at the dinner table, looking at it. Just crazy stuff. That's my new rule when I check my social media content. I'm not allowed to go like that with my thumb. I just check all my stats, my analytics, everything, my posts, everything, and I get the hell out of there, bro. Because dude, one night over this winter, I looked at all the aliens, the UFOs in New Jersey, and then the aliens in Miami, and then I'm like, my wife, have you seen this? And then it's like, you made me no money.
There's a lot of distractions in the world, and you can let them take over you, or you can take control over them and, decide when you want to expose yourself to that, or decide when you need to shut it off. Like I was just having a conversation with my wife last night in bed where it's like, I'm doing this thing that's distracting me for something that I really need to do, and I need to cut myself off. I'm conscious of it. I'm aware of it. Like it goes back to studying for that tick license here in Michigan. I don't have any desire to learn about cockroaches, spiders, bees, mice. I have no desire to learn that. But in order to get this license, I have to learn it. And so I have to separate myself from everything that's going on and focus on it so I can pass this damn exam, have the license, and then not worry about it ever again. I think Troy asked a question about mosquitoes.
Yeah.
He asked if male or mosquito females. Yeah. Female mosquitoes are the only mosquitoes that have a blood meal, and it's because they need the protein to create eggs. Male mosquitoes are just there to procreate, and then they go and they drink nectar out of flowers. So every time you get bit by a mosquito, it is a woman. It's a female that's biting you. Thank you, Corey.
Yes. All right. Respect you both, wise gentlemen. We're coming up on an hour. We passed an hour, bro. That's okay. That okay.
Was fast.
Amazing, man. So awesome having you on the show on the Untrapped podcast on Apple and Spotify. We just crossed 850,000 downloads. If you want to go back and listen to this again, the show will be out in 1 to 2 weeks on Apple and Spotify, even though this was live on Facebook and YouTube at Keith Kalfas. You can find Austin Duggage. Ditch the Itch is the name of his company. Elevate Applicate is his YouTube channel, or go to thepoisonivyacademy.com or Poison Ivy.
I haven't looked into it in a while, but I think it's poisonivyacademy.com.
And then on Instagram, where can everybody find you?
Ditch the Itch MI.
Ditch the Itch MI. Check them out. Follow them. The guy's a wealth of knowledge and inspiration. I really appreciate having you on my show again, brother, and I'd like you to come in person. Also, if you're doing that job in Flint, maybe discuss us coming out, and if it's okay with you and them, we could do like a what is it called, a cameo on our YouTube channel and interview you and talk about the whole process, fly the drone over and like do a whole video on what you're up to, because it's really educational. It's a different angle on the green industry, and it's, what do we call it? We're the green collar professionals.
Green collar professionals. Yeah, that's a coined term by good old Daniel Mirabal. Shout out to him again. He's right, though. We are. And you're only going to be perceived as a professional if you put yourself out there as a professional. If you put yourself out there like you're not, then you're just not going to be perceived as one. So you have to act the part.
Boom.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much, man. Any final words?
Nah, thanks for having me. I hope you guys got some value out of this. Like and subscribe, right? I don't think we've said that yet in this video, but definitely like and subscribe for Keith. He's taught me a wealth of knowledge, and I'm glad that I was here to help provide value for his audience. So thanks you again,
everybody, and much respect to everybody here. And I hope you crush it this spring. It's right here. It's now.
Yeah. Watch out for poison ivy too, because we're all going to be in those environments soon.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Later.
Hey, I hope you liked the show. And if you like the Untrapped podcast and you get value from it, can you please take a minute and go over to Spotify and leave it a well-worded positive 5-star review? It helps boost the rankings on Spotify so the show can get to more people. Therefore, these messages can get out to more people and inspire more people so then they can go out and start their small businesses and crush it and get to the next level. It's a huge deal. All right, I'll see you in the next show.